Hello and welcome to the Dojo, a marketing news podcast by Exposure Ninja. This week we are joined by the wonderful Tim Cameron Kitchen, Jess, Percival, and myself, Dale Davies, the head of marketing Exposure Ninja. Got a couple of stories lined up. Tim, what's your story this week?
My story is it's been another big week in AI, but I've got some data to put everything into context for us.
Okay, tell us more.
So this has been a pretty big week in AI. If we just talk about the stuff that's most relevant to us in our sort of mainly search-focused corner of the internet, Google has decided to roll out AI overviews to another 100 countries. So if you remember, right at the start of the year, sort of May-ish, well, it's not really the start of the year, but when Google first announced AI overviews, the plan was to have 1 billion monthly active users by the end of the year. And this rollout that Google has started will get it to that magic 1 billion users per month. So this is coming, and obviously 1 billion users using AI overviews means there's going to be a lot more data and probably a lot more traffic or a lot less traffic, depending on whether you're getting traffic from AI overviews or not. It's also expanded the number of languages that you can talk to AI overviews in as well. So if you talk in, Portuguese or Japanese, you'll get Portuguese or Japanese AI overviews answers back. As well as this announcement, they've also sort of restated that ads are now appearing in AI overviews in the US on mobile for now, but this is going to be an important sort of phase in Google's evolution and our evolution as marketers as well, as more of these AI overviews are showing. And that they are testing some new ways of driving traffic to websites. This is really important for marketers. So they've said that as well as showing the links on the right-hand side and as well as on desktop and as well as showing links on mobile in the top right-hand corner, they're also testing some inline links appearing in the text. So inline links meaning links that are showing like the underlined a section of text in the AI overview, and you can click on that and go to the website. You can tap on that and go to the website. And in their announcement, they said these updates drove an increase in traffic to supporting websites compared to the previous designs. So it does seem like Google is trying to drive some traffic to websites from AI overviews. And that seemed to be one of the drivers, one of the motivations for these design changes. So that's kind of encouraging. Other sort of Actually, before we carry on, let's talk about this. Any feedback, any thoughts, any ideas on any of these things?
Yeah, I mean, that last bit just kind of made me laugh because, of course, if you're going to link directly to websites within the text, it's going to drive more traffic. Like, water is wet. What are you on about? One thing that I thought was really interesting is whether the AI will be translating. So potentially finding information from a website in one language and then using that information to serve it in a different language, which could be really helpful, but it could also be quite troublesome if you don't ship to that country, but you're getting recommended. But that could open up some really exciting opportunities for businesses to be discovered in regions that maybe they wouldn't have considered before. I mean, I know we work with some clients who have bilingual websites, like in the US, where they have Spanish and American, because they know there's a market there. But they would have only discovered that because people were coming to them and requesting that service. So I wonder if maybe businesses that are a little bit more online, as opposed to this instance, it was a law firm where they're physically speaking to people, but whether they're going to find some sort of new regions that they might actually be able to reach. Obviously, for some businesses, like I said, it's going to be a challenge if not. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to know if they are going to pull from different languages to what the person is searching for, or if not.
That is a very good point. And the quality of any traffic that comes through, like you say, if you don't ship to that place, or if you don't even have that language on your website, but you are being shown in an AI overview in that language, it could be very interesting. It'd be interesting to see how Google plays that. Dale, what are your thoughts on this latest AI overview expansion?
It's weird. It's kind of like you could take everything below the AI overview away, and you're pretty much just left with a blog post, believe it or not. Like, instead of going to blog post, the blog post is just there with your inline links and blah 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 blah. So it's reaching the point where do the rest of the links even matter anymore? I don't know. It's a tricky one, but It did remind me of a recent news story that Google is adding or working on a watermarking feature for text. So it's adapting the probability of the model for the next token that should come up, and saying, okay, we changed it so we can detect when a model is being used to create the next word in the sentence and so on. Which is great, and imagine would be really good for their algorithm to determine how much of a website's copy is AI or not, because it's like, well, it matches the characteristics of the blah, blah, blah. But then in the story later on, as I'm like 5 or 6 paragraphs in, it's like, however, it's not good at factual stuff, and it's not good at translation, and it's not good at all this stuff. I'm like, okay, right. So all this translation work that we could possibly do, once you realize that we're appearing in South Korea's AI overviews, and there's quite a lot of interest there, perhaps there's a project release on the cards, let's develop that for the next quarter, or towards the end of the year. Well, all of the content that we translated along the way to kind of build that up, it's all factually inaccurate, and Google's not going to rank it anyway because it doesn't like what it sees, and it doesn't pass the watermarking test, and blah blah blah. So kind of cool stuff, but complications ahead as well.
Yeah, the watermarking thing is interesting, isn't it? I saw it. Google's also put out an image watermarking function as well, and it seems quite clearly designed to take on the challenge Google has, where an increased amount of what you search for on Google is actually AI, not served by Google, but served by websites. There was an example on Reddit where if you search for a baby peacock, I think all of the images that were shown were AI generated. And it raises this question of what do you actually go to Google for? And if Google can't necessarily tell between AI generated and human generated in some of these formats, it sort of waters down the Google's results and makes it feel a little bit less legit, less interesting, less useful. So I think Google's got a bit of a job on its hands to try and filter what's human generated and what's AI generated, and maybe its watermarking is an attempt to try and get over that problem so it can improve its own search results.
Yeah, I think one of the steps towards that is there was another story that's reading. It's actually from August, which is about OpenAI, Adobe, and Microsoft. Reading it verbatim is OpenAI, Adobe, and Microsoft have thrown their support behind a California bill requiring tech companies to label AI-generated content. So this is something called AB 3211. Requires watermarks in the metadata of AI-generated photos, videos, and clips. So that's going to be like in there, and is going through the process of becoming a bill in California. It should be interesting to see like where that goes, which could be good, very much so for like video and stuff, and perhaps we won't get scammed through social media videos and Trump said this. Oh wow, never mind. Harris said this. Perhaps will secure us in the future against that kind of stuff, but for the time being, that's just one state out of an entire world, and it's not even perfected yet. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think my thoughts on that is like, I'm thinking of the average person that shows me AI generated content and goes, how cool is this? That person is not going to know how to look into the metadata of an image to know that it's not real. And so I think it's also really funny that it feels like these tech companies are trying to now find a solution to a problem they literally created themselves. Like they're like, oh no, we created a machine that makes fake blogs. Now we have to make the fake blog detection machine. Like nobody's been thinking. I feel like there's just a lot of decisions being made. But yeah, Tim, what you were saying about the peacocks, I think we've discussed that on the podcast before. And I have to say, like, Pinterest is becoming nearly an unusable site. Like, before we started recording this podcast, I was talking about a hair appointment I had recently, and I was looking for reference photos, and I was really having to work to find the ones that weren't AI, because there would be nothing more embarrassing to me than going to a hair appointment and being like, can you do this? And then being like, that is like literally impossible. But I see it all the time. I use Reddit a lot, and some reason when the crochet subreddit, I think I don't crochet, but I like seeing what people create. And nearly every day there's somebody in that subreddit saying, how do I do this for something that to me, to my, like, what I would consider my trained eye is not real. But they're like, I've been stressing myself out trying to figure out. It was like some image of they were like bows with pumpkins on. They were like, I literally feel like something's wrong with me because I thought I was good at crochet and I can't figure out how to do this. And then we're in the comments like, it's not real. you spent a day I know it might seem ridiculous, I'm stressed over crochet, but if that's their favorite hobby, they're going to get into it and be thinking about it. And it's just, we already had this issue with like unrealistic beauty standards anyway, with filters and stuff, and like unobtainable things. And now I think it's really going to come to bite a lot of businesses. Like, I've seen another one recently that was interior design, and somebody was like, I want this, how do I achieve this? And people were like, it's not real. But then there's other people posting their interior design work being told, oh, this looks like AI, delete it. Like, it's just, I hate the fact that when I'm on social media and I see something cool, I'm like, but is it cool? Is it real? Like, yeah, it's, like I said, I feel like these tech companies have created a problem that they're now trying to fix. It's, yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to my ramble.
I think it'll come to a point where enough legal stuff will happen where when you go to upload a photo to Pinterest and Instagram, it'll say, you can't use this is property of whoever, in the same way that YouTube does the copyright checks and strikes and stuff like that. This video belongs to whoever, the music belongs to Y, blah, blah, blah. It'll probably happen to images as well. Like, I think a few weeks ago, you told us about the Instagram AI created flag, erroneously red flagging stuff. When that's perfected, I think every tool will have some for the upload process before it even requires a tag at all.
I don't know if they'll ever get this sorted though, because on the one hand, they're trying to work on detection. On the other hand, they're trying to make all these models better and essentially less detectable, right? They're trying to, the writing's improving. Like a year ago, you could look at writing and immediately say, oh, that's AI. Now you look at it and you're like, could be AI. But why not?
Yeah. Also, I've been connected to the art community for a really, really long time, and the amount of people's art that's been being stolen for years and years and years, I feel like they just won't care. Like, I feel like, I constantly see the same memes that I saw on 5 other accounts being posted by a 6th account, like pictures, and people will be like, where did you get this from? And they're like, oh, credit to artist or credit to original photographer. And then within 2 seconds, somebody else has found who the original person is. Like, it wasn't that hard. So yeah, I don't know if they really care enough. I know you said about lawsuits, but I just genuinely think they're just going to be like, we don't, unless it really harms their bottom line, I don't think they're going to care.
Taking us back to your story, Tim.
Yes.
Do you think that we should expect to see an increase of traffic from AI overviews through this link addition, or should we start to expect to see traffic from other LLMs as well using the same kind of methods?
No, well, I'm glad you asked. This was the first month, or I think October was the first month where ChatGPT was now ExposureNinja.com's top referral traffic source. And it's rising quickly. If you look at the chart, I think we're probably going to put out a tool that allows you to plug into your GA4 and see what your referral traffic from LLMs is. But for us in particular, it's really been ramping up. I don't think Google's going to split out traffic from AI overviews. So we're going to be sort of stabbing in the dark a little bit to see whether being mentioned in the AI overviews leads to a significant increase. But compared to not being seen, it's probably going to do a little bit. I think the jury's really out as to whether it gives websites more traffic than previous. I can't help feeling that it won't. If you compare an AI overview to a featured snippet, there's just so much more detail there. And I think it's providing such a more complete answer. And, why wouldn't it, right? Google's trying to give you the complete answer to your question in the search results. It's not trying to give you the starting point for a long research journey through multiple pages, through websites. It's trying to shortcut that. So if it's going to shortcut that, that does mean fewer informational search visitors. So yeah, we don't really know, but I think the game has to be get your website featured in the AI overviews, get your website featured in ChatGPT, influence the answers as much as you can. You've got to be in the game. You've got to be being recommended by these tools. And fundamentally, there's still going to be as many purchases being made as a result of these. It might just be some of the customer journey along the way is not happening on your website, but it's happening in the search results page or in ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or any one of these tools.
According to SimilarWeb, ChatGPT is the 3rd highest, most visited search tool. I was starting to refuse to use the word engine anymore. A search object in the world. So like it's now getting more traffic than Bing.com is, or Bing search engine search product. is since August, and that's only going to go up and up and up. So, like, whilst we may have data and opinion and conversations with our clients and conversations with customers and all this different stuff, it's heading in that direction. And if you're not attacking it, you're gonna end up in a bad place. Like, I think I was referring to a webinar that Tim did just a couple of months ago, which was talking about the future of SEO and the future of AI as a part of SEO. And I think the question that Tim asked was, how screwed are you? And it really is a case of, like, if you do not do something about this, you could be quite screwed. And it starts with getting, a solid foundation of SEO, but also comes some understanding like where it's all heading. So just, take it seriously. And if you're not sure, you can head over to exposureninja.com/review. You can speak to our team about, your marketing strategy, your marketing, your website, make sure that everything is set up well to tackle the next, not just the next year, but the next 5 years of rapid change. I do want to talk about SEO and search and AI and stuff, but perhaps our listeners would like a break. So, Jess, perhaps take us through your headline for this week and your story.
You can always rely on me for a nice little brain cleansing, fun story. So my story is about IKEA's new face of gaming. Basically, IKEA have a gaming range, for anybody who doesn't know. They sell a lot of like desks, lighting, just cool stuff for gamers, because it's a big demographic. And, there was a lot of companies kind of serving different areas of that, whether like chairs or desks or whatever. So IKEA naturally went to that space, and they have appointed their new face of gaming, who is Kath Bowie, a 76-year-old Twitch streamer, also known as Grumpy Gran 1948. She streams Fortnite, and she has over 20,000 followers on Twitch. And for people who aren't familiar with Twitch, 20,000 followers is quite significant on there. It works quite differently to places like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. I'd say 20K is quite big. And the reason this caught my eye is because this is so much more interesting to me than just going with a stereotypical gaming influencer. This really, as a gamer myself, I built my own PC, I have multiple games consoles, like it's my main hobby, I would say. This really grabbed my attention a lot more than it would be if it was just, like I said, your typical gamer who normally streams on Twitch. You can kind of envision with like the big headphones. They're often, quite young and attractive if they're popular. But at the same time, it's still interesting to the target audience. They haven't just decided to cast an older woman in this role. They've actually got someone who is really connected to this community, whose community really responds well to her because she's different and she's got that USP of being 76. I think she only started gaming like 7 years ago. So I think people kind of come and watch because it's something a bit different to everything else that's out there. But also part of it is about wanting to encourage more ages to game. Like, she's the kind of person who's like, a lot of people my age wouldn't consider this as a hobby, but actually it's really fun and I really like it and I feel like it keeps me young and all this. So it feels like it's trying to be about more than just selling their gaming range as well, because they're trying to put that spin on it as well, which, will help them if a bunch of older people start gaming and are suddenly like, oh, well, I need a desk and a chair and I can play Fortnite. And yeah, I just thought it was a really lovely story. And I was just wondering, what if you two had a take on it, if at all, and if you think there's any other brands or any other niches that could take advantage of this.
Tim, I'm going to come to you first with just an additional question, actually, which is from a high level. Do you think the team responsible for this has been set an objective and had to come up with a strategy that is create PR, or is it sell more of X product, or is it hit this audience? Which one do you think it is?
I would expect that it's not as specific as we have a target of selling this many items. I would have thought their goal would be broadly visibility and awareness in the gaming category, and that is the basis of an influencer campaign. And then, I think this is such a smart play, isn't it? I look at this from the sort of the savage, brutal capitalist hat of, if you're if you're going to sponsor anyone, you may as well sponsor someone who's going to get you're going to get a news story just from the fact that you've sponsored them, right? You could go after, you could go after blind gamers. You could go after anyone who's like different enough that people would click, right? As soon as you see, wow, IKEA sponsored a gaming granny, click, 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 right? Super interesting. So I think it works on the basis that the number one job of any PR campaign is to get attention. If they just targeted a normal influencer, that's not really newsworthy, is it? So I really like the angle. And then like you said, Jess, there's a bunch of secondary benefits to this of raising awareness about whether it, you can follow lots of threads, can you, like loneliness in old age and how gaming can be something that can help with that, and keeping cognition sharp as you get older as well. There's so many angles that you can play with this. I think it's one of those lovely campaigns that you often bring to the podcast, Jess, where it just ticks so many boxes all at once and you're like, yes, nailed it. I think that's super smart. What's your take, Dale? You're a gamer, aren't you? Would you go and buy something that Grumpy Grand's shilling you on a Twitch stream?
Maybe, quite possibly. I don't know. I've seen the gaming products available at IKEA a couple of times, and yeah, they're fairly decent. I think they understand the space like pretty well. They developed it pretty rapidly during the COVID era, and I think they're doing well there. But yeah, I do definitely see like the PR angle of trying to find overlapping circles of like, we want something that's unexpected, that's gonna fill up a few a few gaps in when you're scrolling through news websites, daily, whatever, the Mirror. Like, it's gonna grab that kind of attention. People will share around. It'll probably do pretty well on Facebook, I would expect, as well, because it's unexpected. I think it plays out pretty well. I think it's a smart move. I wonder about like the longevity of it. Like, where do we go from here? Or is it just like this quarter's campaign and that's it? It's one and done. Or do we build upon it after this point? Jess, I'm really curious, like in terms of distribution, how you would go about promoting this. Is it just like it fills up the newspaper columns, it fills up all that kind of stuff, or do you think it plays out for longer elsewhere?
Yeah, I think there's potentially some opportunities to do a bit more in terms of like going into the community and doing some content with older people and introducing them to gaming, and having Kath as like an example, as well as doing stuff, because IKEA are pretty good with new tech. Like, we've spoken about them before on the podcast when they've done stuff in like Roblox and that. There's just so much that they can do in the digital space as well. One, with this creator, but also if they wanted to do any like Grumpy Gran gaming challenges on Twitch. Like, there's so many brand deals I see happening over on Twitch all the time. So there is definitely an opportunity there. But then they could take this in so many different directions, whether, like you said, Dale, if it's just a 1 quarter thing, maybe next quarter they could collaborate with a disabled gamer, or next quarter, collaborate with different types of influencers who aren't normally represented in the space as much, that kind of make people go, is that person really a gamer? Which I know sounds really awful, but I'm just talking about like the general public, specifically to do with older people. People will be like, why did they choose her? And then it kind of creates like a bigger conversation that could be really interesting. And I think they have such a great opportunity to platform people who are less represented in this space. So I really hope they take advantage of that. And I really hope this campaign works out well. It's got all the marks of a good campaign. It's just, as we've been discussing this podcast, we never know how much of other people's campaigns it's just us thinking they're cool as marketers, and how much they actually translate into sales, visibility, whatever they're trying to achieve behind the scenes. So I think, but there's other ways, like, a lot of her streams now, she's saying like, I'm the face of this range, which I will not be able to pronounce. I'm sure I'll butcher it. But I'm the face of this range. Like, she's getting something out of it as well. She gets to be able to say like, I'm an IKEA sponsored gamer, which is not like there's certain brands that sponsor everyone, and IKEA isn't one of them. So it's quite nice in that aspect as well. Like, it kind of gives her a bit of a legitimacy too. And she's not the only older gamer out there are quite a few, but it's really great to see, after like a few years of having more older people enter the space, I think she said she told her grandson she was going to start streaming, and he was like, why would you do that? That's ridiculous. And now she was like, and now he doesn't say anything to me like about that because, she's doing awesome. Yeah, I wonder if they potentially have an opportunity to do a collaboration with like Fortnite or something, especially because she specifically plays Fortnite. I couldn't believe that. I was expecting it to be something different, but no, Fortnite. Which just shows my own biases too. But they've definitely got an opportunity. I know there's been other brands that have created worlds in Fortnite, same as they can do in Roblox, and promoted stuff there. So there's definitely some really cool opportunities and different ways they could take this. Just depends. I guess maybe this is a tester and they're going to see whether having her as the face of it takes them anywhere else. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, I love the power of enabling a marketing or an advertising team to just say, okay, one of your quarters, one of your campaigns for this year is just for you to go out and do something a bit different, and maybe this is that campaign. And if it's successful, they can do a rinse and repeat. Like, this time next year it can be about another segment of a category, another kind of person, another person or group that they can lift up. I love that. I love that suggestion, Jess. Any final thoughts on this one?
This is just like it's a reminder, isn't it, when you're doing something with your marketing to just maybe think slightly outside of the conventional wisdom, like obviously for influencer campaigns here, but there's all sorts of opportunities like this, which, like you said, Jess, are surprising. And it's just a reminder of how useful surprise can be as a marketing tool and as a way of getting attention, and how you can do that you don't have to hate stuff, you don't have to have some hot spicy take to be surprising. You can actually find like an underrepresented group, or you can do something positive that results in surprise as well. So it's just a wholesome result, I think, and it should work out for everyone.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway here is really just understanding your audience, and like, they could have picked anyone. They could have picked somebody who doesn't have an audience and who is just not really performing in the space. Like, there would be a difference if they were to be like, well, why don't we have a dog be the face of our gaming range? And then it's like, that's cute, but what's the connection?
Yeah.
Whereas in this situation, they've picked somebody who does have a connection to the industry. Completely makes sense. It's not just for shock value. People will see her and be like, oh my gosh, that's that person from Twitch. Like, it's subversive, but not in a way that doesn't have anything to do with the brand at all, which I like.
Okay, well, I'm going to take us into our final story. My one is kind of brief, but I don't speak briefly, so we'll see how that goes.
You're in good company, though. No judgment.
Try and breathe a little bit. So yeah, my story for this week is stop calling it SEO, and I'll get on to why in just a second. But I'll start by just mentioning a bit of news about Meta. So apparently Meta is building a search engine, or at least it's trying to build a search engine in a different way that it has been delivering search before. So apparently it's had for 6 to 8 months a team building out a search product, and the initial stages of that are to go and crawl the web. So if you're into log file analysis, if you're that techie, you kind of pull your server records to see which crawlers have been going over your website, and you'll spot Googlebot in there, you'll spot GPT bot if it's coming from OpenAI. You should see a Meta one floating around there as well nowadays. Maybe not on everybody's website, but some of the crucial ones. They're basically going out there finding information, and instead of having to serve a result from Bing or any other search engine, where I keep saying engine, you understand why I started to hate that word so much, surely. But yeah, it starts to build this search product for themselves. So instead of having to send people elsewhere, they can keep people within the Meta platform, within Facebook, within Instagram, within WhatsApp as well, because their AI is a bit stronger now, and you can ask their AI questions in there, and they'll try and keep you there too. But they're also like making relationships with publishing platforms, which they've had historically, but started to make different agreements. One of the agreements is that they're going to work with Reuters, the news agency, global news agency. They're going to crawl all of their news content and promote it and serve it for news queries. So if you're in WhatsApp and you want to know about a certain thing that's happened, trending news, breaking news, they'll return the routers instead. So effectively, they're building out all this information, crawling the web. They're also getting like better location data as well to try and like rival Google Maps. So they want to like know all this stuff, as well as they own Facebook, which is filled with content, filled with images and words, and you name it, it's covered. Like how people play games within Facebook, all that historical stuff, or the poking from like 2008. That will all be in the database somewhere, and they'll be pulling that information. But then you start to factor in like threads, which a lot of the people are like, oh, why are they doing that? Like, why are they building threads? Like, X, Twitter already exists. Sure, you can give that a play and see if that works out for you in the same way that they developed Reels, and it turns out that it's been really good for them as well. They've got threads, and it's got 200 million monthly active users, people tapping away or writing stuff or just engaging, and they're learning from that content as well. So they've got like vast amount of information that they could, in theory, build their own search product. And I don't blame them, because search is everything. Like if you are Meta and so much of your business is from the ad platform, like serving ads to people, if you can own some of that search journey, you can serve ads in a better way because it's more accurate and you can get them in the right place at the right time. But by owning the search products yourself, you're not relying upon Bing or Google or sending stuff elsewhere. You just keep people within your system. So they realize that the search journey before a purchase is no longer, oh, I'm going to learn about something on Instagram. I'll go over to Google, I'll do my search, and then I'll complete the journey there at some point. I might have another Facebook ad touch point or what have you. If they own the search, they can keep all of that on in their ecosystem instead of having people go elsewhere. And with other search platforms coming up as well, like Search GPT and Claude AI, I don't blame them for wanting to like protect themselves a little bit and just own as much of the search journey as they possibly can. So search is coming in some form. An improvement of search is coming to Facebook, and it's hopefully coming to Instagram, because if you ever try to find anything on there, it's impossible. You search for like a phrase, I want to learn about product development or whatever. Yeah, good luck with that. You've got no chance. You're going to see a bunch of AI images from who knows where. They desperately need an improvement. But the point I'm trying to make is everywhere is going to be search. Like the search journey is going to spread out, and Google will still retain a huge amount of it. But as I said earlier, ChatGPT is the third highest search product after Google and YouTube. So Meta wants to be in there as well. And there are all these other platforms too. So if you think about, you need to start thinking about what is the search journey for your customers, and think about it everywhere and not just in one platform. You got to think about it everywhere. But you absolutely must do a lot of like GEO. So you have to focus on your generative engine optimization, which is basically the next era of SEO. Ensure that your website ranks within generative engines or generative search, or keep it simply, stop calling it SEO or GEO. It's just search. Just make sure your website, your business, your brand features in the search journey. Search whatever words come after that. So do search marketing, search optimization, and protect not only what you have right now, but grow within the changes that are coming down the line as well. So everything is search. Search is everywhere. It's not just in search engines, and you have to factor that into your marketing strategy as well. What do you think? These are the opinions of Dale Davies and not necessarily the opinions of exposure trading women.
I think for me, like, I don't know about other people, but I don't really want to search on Facebook. Like, I just have no interest in doing that. I like having all my different places for all my different things. I pretty much don't go on Facebook anyway, really. But like, I don't know, it just feels really boring to me if you were just going to go and spend all your time on one app. Like, maybe that's just me, but again, this are my opinions and not the opinions of Exposure Ninja as a whole.
I'm just wondering, like, if in some circumstances it's less about you spending all of your time on one platform, it's more about the right option, then the right next step is there in front of you. So, for example, on YouTube at the moment, there's an experiment where they're turning some phrases in the comments into searches. So you click on it, and then it searches for that phrase on YouTube, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's on
What if,
TikTok as well.
when you're scrolling through and you see something, a reel or a photo, rarely see a photo on Instagram, but anyway, if you see one and you click in the comments and there's a phrase that's blue linked and you click on it, it just opens the search within the product just for a quick scroll through. That's a faster way of you finding the information you need about that, whatever it is that is. But it also means that they'll learn how to better serve you an advert about that search later on, which is probably not what people want to hear, but we all want a better advertising, like advertising to be better so we get better targeted ads, even if we all refuse to say so. Like we all hate getting advertised stuff we don't want. So I don't know. I mean, it might not be for like you want to spend loads of time there, but making that experience better by including search within it, I could definitely see like the advantages of it.
It does definitely need an update. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about with the comments, be it having a link in them. Happens all the time on TikTok, and it will have a suggested search. And sometimes I'll come across a video that's about some like gossip that I don't know the other half to, or it will be referring to a video that I haven't seen. And then the top comment will say something about like, oh, is this about this thing? And then it will be linked. I click on it and none of the videos are relevant. They're all just something totally different. So I guess for that reason, I would be interested in seeing it be updated, but I also just, I guess I think it's quite a random feature anyway. I'm always like, who was asking for this? Whenever there's a new tech, I'm like, who was asking for this? But there must be some demand for it. It's just, you know, maybe I'm a little bit jaded with all the changes that seem to be happening. And I'm like, okay, that's another thing to cram into my brain so I can forget my grandma's birthday or something. Great.
I actually think you're bang on, Jess. I think you are. Everyone wants to build the super app, right? And search is the ultimate feature of the super app because search is the commercial intent, which is the most monetizable intent anywhere. That's where people go when they want to buy. And if I'm Zuckerberg, I'm thinking, right, I want to build my llama model, and I know it's going to have to search online at some point to get up to date information. And I can either license that data, license that search from Google or Bing, or I can just spend a bit of money and do it myself. For me, though, everyone's search sucks except for Google. Even like Apple, if you try and search something in Apple's search and you get like a slight spelling mistake in the App Store,
God, yeah.
no results.
It's
right?
so irritating.
And Apple has hired like ex-VPs of search from Google. They've had from the Google antitrust docs, they've had this huge search team inside Apple for years building out this tech, and their search still sucks. So I think it's obviously hard enough problem that it's not as easy as it looks on the outside. And I think for Meta to make a more usable search engine than Google is quite a challenge. And I see this as like, when they made those AI people that you could talk to on Meta and on Instagram, and they just killed them recently. And it was like, oh yeah, that's a cool kind of concept. I wonder if people are actually going to use that. I actually see Meta's whole sort of AI play as along that line. I can't see that you're just going to go into Instagram and search for stuff to buy. It just doesn't. I can't see how they're going to get people to use that.
I don't know, because I would say the observations of TikTok search habits is starting to occur in other places too. Like, I think a lot of people do a restaurant search on Instagram, on TikTok, to see like where's a nice place to eat near me. I think over time, people's search habits will change, and they'll do those kinds of searches elsewhere instead of going to YouTube to search for Canon, I don't know, Ace X7. I just made that up. I don't know the name of the cameras. I'm not a camera person, but like instead of search it, but I might go over to TikTok now and search for it and get real opinions. I might go to Instagram if the search product is better. But I think the main point I'm trying to make is people are making those searches across lots of different platforms, and it's happening more and more. And if you haven't factored that in yet, to like your search journey, you might have presumed was 100% Google, 95% Google, 5% Bing, and everyone else. But if you thought that was where all of your commitment should be when it comes to SEO, I think you're gonna get some benefit from that, because it takes strong SEO foundation to appear in AI overviews and do well with generative engine optimization. But you need to factor in that it may change and is looking like everyone's gearing towards that way. And it might slip from 95 to 85 in the next couple of years. So you need to be aware of like what that search journey looks like and optimize around it. Instead of asking you questions, I'm just going to thank everyone for joining us this week. And if you want to hear more, you can head to exposureninja.com/podcast. There are 300 to 400 to 500 podcasts that you're going to love and learn a lot more about AI overviews, as well as generative engine optimization. If you're not aware what that is, head over to exposureninja.com/GEO and you should get a whole bunch of stuff there. We'll teach you all about what it is. And thank you again. See you all next week. Take care and bye-bye. Bye.